Good evening and welcome to the webinar series being hosted by the IIT Alumni Center in Bengaluru. We've done this from April 2020, when the pandemic hit, and it's become a habit with us. And we hope we brought in interesting topics and interesting speakers so that the world, the scientific and technology community can benefit at large. We are also thankful to our viewers for having responded to our survey that we sent out, seeking your feedback on the webinars, and we are acting on it now. And you will see more a different variation of the webinars in the next couple of months. Today, our topic is an interesting one because of several data points that I've learned by just looking at the internet. I think the first one is that in 2015, cyber crimes totaled almost $3 trillion globally, which is about India's GDP today. So just think about it. And with a world GDP of approximately 104 or 105 trillion, it was fully 3% of the global GDP. And the scarier thing is that it is expected to rise at a 15% rate compared to the global GDP, which is not expected to rise that fast. So by 2025, it is expected to be almost 8 or 9% of the global GDP. They're saying it will be $10.5 trillion in 2025. Now, these are serious numbers, and we need to know more and more about it. Despite the fact that Bollywood came out with a series called Jamtara, where a village in Jharkhand runs a school teaching youngsters how to cheat people, not cybersecurity, but the other side of the table, and bring about ruin for a lot of people. I think today we will be benefiting a lot from listening to our speaker, Venkat Varadachari. Venkat is a professional in this business for over 25 years and works currently with a very leading, manufacturer of security systems, besides other things. Has a master's in technology from BITS Pilani, and is very, very passionate about this business of cybersecurity. At IITACB also, we've taken this thing fairly seriously. Just before the pandemic, we hosted multiple workshops in Bangalore and in Ghaziabad on cybersecurity for people in the banking and defense sectors. And I believe, if I recall right, we had 4 or 5 such workshops that were very well received, and we hope to continue that in the months and years to come. With that, I wanted to hand over to Venkat, but before that, a couple of words on my fellow moderators. Dhananjay Kollur, IIT Kharagpur graduate. He wants to make sure that I say he's retired. But he's very active as a treasurer of the IITACB. So very well versed in cybersecurity, the ideal person to moderate today. And Dr. Sushila Venkatraman, also from IITACB, will do the summing up at the end of this webinar. This webinar is being recorded, so you will see a recorded version on the IIT Alumni Center Bengaluru YouTube channel, I believe by Monday. And couple of simple house rules for today. Please do not use the chat box for Q&A. Please use only the Q&A box. And don't ask us for certificates of participation. We don't give them away. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Venkat, and for all of us to learn more about cybersecurity for everyone. Over to you, Venkat.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Ashok. I hope you are all able to hear me. Let me start sharing my screen. Yeah, welcome. I'd like to first start with highlighting what Mr. Ashok mentioned. Yeah, the numbers are really baffling. That's a very huge thing. This just reiterates the importance of cybersecurity in the current world and why we have to be aware of everything, whether you are a technology, whether you are a technical enthusiast or a common man using technology as part of your day-to-day life. Cybersecurity is very critical, and this is the awareness of that, as well as proactively taking care of avoiding attacks not just on organizations or the network, even on the individual, is of paramount importance. I would start by saying what exactly, just reiterating what was mentioned. Today's stuff, what we can expect out of this thing. Of course, this is just a short window that we have got. We are going to start with mentioning about what cybersecurity is. This is not a session that is intended for experts, so we are not getting into very technical details of that is of security. Not at the same time, it is not a very basic stuff. It is not an intro sort of stuff which can be really got out of lots of literature available in the network. So we are trying to do something like a hybrid. So the takeaways from this session, I expect that everyone who is listening to this thing gets to know about what exactly the security is, not from just their perspective, but also at a wider level, and why it is important for us to be proactive and be aware of the problems and what exactly we should do or we shouldn't do, both of them. Both as an individual, it might be an administrator, you might be a network or security admin who may be taking care of the network by itself, or everyone has got specific things to take care of. So we are going to touch upon that, maybe set an expectation on what exactly the learnings out of this, what the do's and don'ts would be. That is the main the expectation, the takeaway what we have to, that is out of this particular session that we expect. And we start by mentioning what cybersecurity is and why cybersecurity is really important in the current day. And there will be a second half where we will get in a bit more technical, where we will talk about the different types of attacks, something technical, how the different attacks manifest, and the very basic typical mitigation plan, or how such attacks can be taken care of, and something about technological solutions, how exactly cybersecurity evolved, the concept of a firewall, when it used to be just official networks and we just had what we required was the border security so that no one enters your network. So just the entry points had to be guarded. But because of various the evolutions, just like the technology evolves and we evolve in protecting ourselves, even the attackers do evolve. So it is a cat and mouse game which continues to happen. So the different technology solutions, the security solutions also evolve. So based on the new attacks, there will be new solutions that will come up. And if time permits, we will get into the different level of security, that is securing just the endpoint, that is like securing just your computer. What would immediately be cited would be having a proper antivirus and appropriate malware protection on your desktop or your devices. Of course, right now it's no more just a computer, it's even your mobile. And securing the wider stuff, not just the endpoint, just the devices, but also the entire network. If we have the way we approach for protecting your endpoints as well as protecting your network, there are overlaps, there are common points, and there could be some differences as well. Probably we may not get into the details, but that would really make an interesting read for most of you, or even a follow-up session on that. With that, I will start by repeating something. This is part of most of the general literature you would see in most of the places, where what exactly cybersecurity is. Cybersecurity is protecting, of course, this has to expand a bit because it was originally planned for computer systems and networks. Now we will diversify that thing also to protect computer systems, networks, as well as individual devices from attacks by external entities whose intent is actually malicious. So they want to misuse your network or your infrastructure or achieve access to your information, which is private, which is supposed to be private, but get to that information. And along with the data theft, they might misuse the details about you. For instance, if your identification or let's say PAN number or anything of that sort, some identity of yours is exposed, someone can just misuse that and they can pose as yourself. Impersonation is one of the important side effects of most of this individual personal information being compromised, either directly by the affected person or when the data that you have shared with someone who rely on, if their network, if their systems are compromised and your private information falls into the wrong hands, someone might impersonate as you and misuse that. That can have impact not only for that organization but also you, because your information is what is being misused. So cybersecurity is actually covering all these things, where the data theft and access to or illegal access to someone's private information is a primary thing. Without going into those specific numbers, some of the things that Mr. Ashok has already covered, we will talk about the importance of cybersecurity, and it is no more something that is in the domain of a specific organization or major companies who have their own networks or who use systems. It is in the life of common man now, especially with the prevalence of devices. IoT in the sense Internet of Things, where every device connects to Internet. You might have a device, a security camera at your home that is connected to the Internet automatically, and you are elsewhere, you are out of your home, but you use an app to connect to your security device, check the camera, see if anything is going on. Or you are remote, but you trigger a particular activity, there is a robo vacuum or something like that, you just trigger an operation at your home. So if there are lots of devices that as part of our daily life, they are connected to the network, either just when we need or all the time connected. Typically it is a second case, and that means the attack surface, the number of things that can get compromised, that can be misused, is increasing. So that really is one of the factors that reflects in the numbers that were told at the beginning, where the cybersecurity stuff itself, the numbers, how much the numbers that they are seeing and related to the GDP of most of the countries. And another important factor that has actually contributed to the increase in the number of cyber attacks is COVID. Because of shutdown and the work from home situation, the number of people, number of devices that are connected or used for official or important transactions has increased. Therefore, the attackers have got even a bigger premium right now. So there are more things that can be exposed and attacked, so they can really compromise more devices and achieve more in their nefarious design. The computing resources have become cheap. This is, of course, the effect of the hardware, the improvements. This is really positive for individuals, for every one of us, because the resources, the infrastructure is developing, but it has got its downside. This, what used to be some of the attacks, when we look at the types of attacks, we will talk about that. They are very performance intensive. It's not very easy to do those things, like the brute force attack, which means someone is going to guess your password by trying different combinations. They may have some information, probably they may have your date of birth, your year or something like that, and name of your child or something of that sort. So they try to guess, typically, because many people use such things as passwords, guess something based on that. But even otherwise, they will have to try various combinations and crack your password or credential somewhere. This was a very hard thing earlier. Now with the automation and the cheap hardware stuff, it is becoming very easy for the attacker to do something that they can't manually accomplish, but something that another computer could do easily. The individuals are also into the scope of cybersecurity now, because as I already mentioned, while it was organizations and major network owners who were the people who got exposed to these attackers, who were the primary focus of attackers, it has been many years since the focus has shifted to individuals than these organizations. It is because of two reasons. One is the networks or major organizations are already well developed. They have got their solutions. They have got their better processes in place to secure their network, and it is hard to compromise their networks. But individuals are unlike that. There are two things. The individuals or fresh users, they are getting connected to the network, or even they may not really connect to the network always. They don't even know that some app is installed in their system or anything of that sort, and it is easy to spoof that and impersonating some other person. There was one recent incident, I don't recollect the organization, where the CEO or a top official of one of the organization had received a WhatsApp message from someone he knows already, and there was a demand for money, and this guy transferred a huge amount based on that communication. And later they realized that it was actually an attacker. Someone has compromised the WhatsApp account of the other person, and they used that thing to impersonate as the friend of this person, and demanded, not demanded, I would say somehow coerced this person to transfer the huge amount. And later they realized that it was not, it was some outsider who did this thing. Of course, this case I spoke about is about the technical guy is a CEO of an organization, but the same thing could happen for any common man, because right now transferring UPI transfer, anything is there with every one of you. So you can just do this. So if your device is somehow compromised, think how someone can simulate a transaction which is not actually carried out by you, but it really debits the account, that is debits your account of your valued funds. So now individuals are in the scope of security. So because you are more connected, you are more exposed, and once some device gets compromised, it manifests to the neighboring devices. The device is yours, it is your phone, it is secure, everything is fine. But the moment your phone gets compromised and some malware gets installed over there, it becomes an actor itself. That is, your phone turns out to be an attacker. So it might use the contacts in your phone, and the same thing could spread to your contacts and so on. So I won't fully rely on the device itself, because the device was secure and it was my device, but even the same device can be misused. And once it is compromised first time, this itself will help in spreading stuff. So this is where understanding that information as well as infrastructure falling into wrong hands means the same thing can be help, that will itself help manifest and spread this stuff. I'd like to just touch upon some of the terms that you will frequently hear in the media, some things that are actually misunderstood or the misnomers are there. So just want to clarify a bit about this. Data breach is just when someone who has got lots of information, like the recent sagas of something like Twitter accounts being compromised, Facebook, and some bank details of so many customers, and all their names, IDs, social security numbers, etc., being compromised, being exposed, falling on the wrong hands, is a data breach. But identity theft is specifically a side effect of that, where once the data is compromised, based on that, like whatever I explained, someone impersonates you. They use your information or part of the information that is available about you to pose as yourself, and still, that is, take your identity and achieve something else. There was another recent incident where it was interesting, where someone had their document, some PAN number, Aadhaar number, and some Aadhaar number which was shared for one purpose with some organization. The same document it got into wrong hands. They used that thing. They posed as this person, created a new mobile number using that as the identity proof, and used that mobile to for terrorist activities and some attacks. And when they eventually found and they backtracked to that, the phone and the number based on whose name it is registered in, an individual who was completely unaware of this thing, who was unrelated to this thing, got into the tangle and had to undergo all the legal complications. So identity theft is number one problem today for all common individuals, whether it is going to be directly stolen from you or your identity is actually shared with someone intentionally, but there it is compromised. So it is very important that we all know about this thing, at least to do whatever is in our control, so that we are not on the receiving end of anything of this sort. Talking about organizations, I did mention that companies are more, because they have evolved over time and they're already aware of many of these problems. They've got a good infrastructure and processes in place to secure them. But because of the same reason I mentioned earlier, where the attackers themselves are evolving and the attacks landscape is changing, even the organizations need to be up to date. So here I can, if someone is thinking about the administrator who is managing the network of some small company, it is just a handful of devices. It may not be a very major network, but still they administer the particular network, they manage that network. They also need to take care of the security posture of their network, ensure that it is up to date and it is all well secured, and they will have to keep track of any recent security changes or whatever new attacks sort of stuff, so that they have to proactively take care of such things. Some things had to be done manually, and some things will be taken care of by using the proper technologies, because now most of the security intelligence is cloud driven. When I say security intelligence, it means it is a collection of information about the current security holes, the attacks that are possible right now, and this keeps evolving. But many organizations which are working in the security domain right now have this thing. They got their security intelligence, common security intelligence, and it is all cloud based. And the individual networks, they will have devices which periodically download the latest security signatures and updates from the cloud, so that they are up to date with the data about the most recent attacks. So even before you really encounter a particular attack, you already know about that thing, and your devices are intelligent enough to take care of them. But the very first person to undergo that attack will still suffer, because the data will not be part of the security intelligence whatever the archives. But this is speeding up. Now the technology companies have evolved, and we are learning fast with artificial intelligence evaluation. We are learning those things automatically and updating the security intelligence feeds, so that the devices, even before the problem becomes big, the networks are being secure. This is how typically the latest revolution of security with the cloud world works. And the main important thing right now, the second point what you see is many of the operations that we have, it is not just based on something a person sitting in front of the screen and doing something as it used to be in the past. Most of those things are automated and they're all coded. So even someone trying to do, you can, for example, consider someone like an admin who has got millions of records or something, and they will have to upload it to their system somehow. It could be one of their databases or something. They don't really sit down and type one by one and get all the data across. It is just done by using a single click, do some API, some programmable interface, just invoke that particular call to do the operation in bulk at the same time. There could be multiple such operations. This is really a boon. It is actually simplifying the operations, and many of the activities are fast enough and they are automated. But the same thing as we discussed about another case earlier, this also has the downside, where if the API itself is compromised, that is, if the same thing, automation can be used, it can be misused by someone. They can do that if they manage to crack the credentials. So what used to be, if someone had the details of multiple users, their bank accounts or something, and they have to go to the different screens or somewhere, and they will have to do that one by one and transfer money from each one of those accounts. It would have been possible to misuse the accounts, access accounts of few people before someone notices that, and they are immediately caught, or the others are aware of that thing already, and some action, some mitigation is already taken. So these people may not have achieved much. But with automation, even before someone realizes that their account has been debited, and the bank realizes that, and bank looks for fraudulent operations, millions of operations happen with this particular API stuff. So I can just do everything in a flash even before that is noticed. So speeding up things has got the downside, where the security could be compromised, or once it is compromised, the misuse can be faster and the impact could be high. And third part is not just about the individuals or the organizations. There are state actors, there are countries, of course, officially they may not claim so or whatever. We are not taking anything about it, but just this is an important point to note. The wars are no more fought on the battlefield. Most of the wars are either preceded or combined with, along with cyber security attacks. You would see much in the media about different countries attacking, that is launching cyber security attacks on other countries before war or after war and so on. You can think about a case where an ongoing war, there is one of the countries who has got their army scattered at different places, and they are communicating with each other, and they are synchronous, and they execute an action plan perfectly. If their communication network is broken at that particular time, that can completely change the result of the war itself. Whatever is going to happen will completely change. So you can think about that because technology is part of not only our daily lives, even the wars, the battlefields have got lots of technical stuff. So if something can be compromised over there, that is going to have a major effect. So this is where the state actors also come into the picture. Both they play the role both on the attacker side as well as the defender side, and they are taking care of everything. And some of these things mentioned over here about the US election results and all those things are well known. This is where something that you would have seen in media so frequently that really highlights the importance of this thing and the impact that it would have on the global community. Not every individual will be directly impacted, but you are indirectly. And the supply chains, where because our economies are so tightly coupled now, there is a huge level of dependency. So anything that can happen elsewhere in some other economy because of a security breach or anything of that sort will that it does have the way to impact your life, your day-to-day life far more easily or faster than it used to be in the past. So it is all well-connected world, well-connected economies, but that itself is a drawback where it can manifest anything that can spread out pretty quickly. So this is highlighting the importance of cybersecurity from every one of the aspects. And other thing that is actually trending, you will always see is about the news that you will see data breaches. Of course, data leak is another term that is used very frequently to that is analogously that is used, but actually there is a difference. Data breach is something that is intentionally done where there is an attacker who looks to expose someone's data. They get into someone's network or by through some ways, nefarious ways, and they get the data, they steal some information. Whereas data leak is something used to refer to something unintentional stuff. It is not done by an attacker, but due to an error, that is a user error. Why I am talking about this thing here, I don't really need to touch upon, we don't need the details about breach versus leak or anything. Since I see the part of this audience, some of them may be individual, they need to know about the relevance of security on their daily life. Some could be administrators or someone who take care of security, so they need to know about the technical details. I am also looking at future technical, that is future security folks, because if there is someone who's an academic who's interested in security, or it's not only about security. For example, you consider someone, there is a mechanical engineer being groomed up. They need to know that the device, it could be a physical device, but even the device that is being, while it is being designed, it should be designed with security in mind. Security is not the purpose of the device. The device is for a different purpose. But unless we think about security, it's not just the device is physically exposed, but somehow it can be connected to and it leaks data. I'm not talking about a breach. I'm talking about some unintentional leak of information which can be misused by someone. So it's not only about individuals, it's not only about the common man, not only about the security or network admins who need to think about security. The programmers are people who are designing future equipments or whatever, anything, or solutions in future, not necessarily related to computers alone. They need to keep security in mind. Whatever domain you are in, whatever activity you are doing, anything that you do will have a security impact. There is a security aspect to that. So this is a message I want to drive. Everyone needs to think about security, how exactly their device, whatever their domain are, it may be less important, it may be more important, it depends, but it is important. Everyone will have to think about that. And the risk of data breaches is just to drive home the point how important it is. You see the first bullet where I say one particular organization got compromised, but there was an attacker who compromised that particular organization. But it always has a cascading effect. When one organization is compromised, I steal the data from that particular organization. That gives the attacker more information about something that they can attack elsewhere, something that is related from the information that can be. You see, one of the social media company has been exposed and so many people's accounts are compromised. The account details include name, maybe address, contact number, anything, some basic information about the subscribers. And the same thing can be misused where somewhere else where just that information, name and address is good enough to spoof as some person, to impersonate someone and attack something else. So this has really got a cascading effect. That's why data is the money here. Today, there is nothing else as valuable as data. So once your data falls into the wrong hands, that can be misused in numerous ways. And this is where the ripple effects, one place being attacked, it quickly spreads out and it can really manifest elsewhere. And second point is about the number of attempts with single vulnerability that happened. There was one vulnerability which was announced or which was exposed to the public. It's not necessary that there are attackers who know about that particular software, what exactly the vulnerability is, how to misuse that and so on. But they try to make the best out of that thing. And these numbers, there were 10 million attempts every hour to attempts to make use of this vulnerability. That doesn't mean 10 million attempts succeeded. It doesn't mean 10 million failures happened or something. Even if one out of this 10 million has resulted in some data compromise, that is going to have a significant impact. You see, this number is just to mention, to drive home the message that the number of attackers out there is high. It may be nefarious individuals, it may be state actors, whatever it is. So they try to make use of any of these vulnerabilities, the security holes, to their benefit. Their agendas could be different, but everyone tries to do the same thing. And the number, so many attempts within an hour to make use of one particular vulnerability, indicates if there are numerous vulnerabilities and numerous products over there, how exactly it will scale up. And the rest, yeah,
couple of questions here, Venkat.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the first question is, as an end user, what do you think, which phone do you think is more secure, Apple or Android?
I think this is a very subjective question. I don't think there will be an answer to that forever, because there are attacks. You see, there are some vulnerabilities which are applicable only to Android. Some of them are not applicable to Apple and so on, and vice versa too. And there are, let me see, did I talk about vulnerability and exploit? Okay, probably I haven't mentioned it here.
Follow-up question for that. Follow-up question is, do I need to have antivirus in my phone?
Yes, there are things to secure your phone as well. It may be called, of course, you referred to it as antivirus because the terminology, it was all called as virus. And later there were different types of virus or different types of attacks. Phishing attacks came in, there were malwares, something that get installed in your system. There were Trojans, which mask us, which show up as someone, because this comes from the famous Trojan horse, where it appears to you as something, but what it is actually doing is something else. I think I lost my share. Let me try to share again. So there were different types of that thing. Nowadays, those things are all called under a single bucket called malware. So anti-malware software is there. There are such things specifically designed for mobile, and there are things for computers and so on, because the intention, the purpose is different. What exactly things that they need to take care of will be at least slightly different. There could be something common, something that is specific to a mobile, which is not applicable to a computer and so on. So having protection, I refer it as protection. I am not going to say it is antivirus or whatever. In your mobile, on your handheld devices also is critical. And regarding the other part of the question, which is actually far more secure, it's a very subjective question and there is no clear answer for that. There are some things which are specifically applicable for Apple. It is considered as strong, but there have been instances of Apple specific attacks which are applicable to Apple phones alone, because the attackers choose they pick and choose their targets. So when something is used far more by Apple phone users, or they are more easy, or not necessarily easy, they will have more information like this thing. So they are the preferred targets, I would say. In that case, they try to expose that. So there is nothing that is called 100% secure, but which is far more secure, that is a subjective question. You will see based on that.
And yeah, one more question, similar question I have is phone banking safer or laptop banking safer? Again,
it depends on what level of security you have got in your devices, because both have their whatever. Of course, the moment you are connecting to something, you are exposing yourself. There is a potential risk. That's true. But if your laptop has got the most recent stuff, because some of the things happen far more quickly, the patches are released far more quickly for some form factors, some variants than the other one. For instance, it depends on your particular phone, how updated your antivirus is or anti-malware, whatever the software that you have got, and how protected you are. So there is nothing I would say to really compare a handheld device with a laptop or a computer, desktop computer, because they are alike in that sense. So there are common attacks, something that being some loophole in a particular banking operation, let's say your net banking stuff, that is applicable irrespective of whether you use a phone or your computer. So they are equally susceptible. There are some things which might be phone specific, which is not because the net banking is different, but it is because creating an app and writing it for your phone is sometimes easier. I am not going to make you install something in your computer far more easily, because you are not going to download and install anything on your computer so easily. But when it comes to your phone, I can have your message, something phishing stuff, and there are lots of optional stuff which you don't intend to install, but you install. There is a adware or something. That's adware is a separate category where you just click, you didn't intend. Many times you would have had an experience, or at least I have had an experience where I installed something accidentally, and I immediately realized that and I uninstalled that. This is not something that is driven. There are too many pages. I open, I read a newspaper. There are something that pop up. I try to click on somewhere, but in mobile, this is far more accidental. Such actions are far more easy. I click somewhere else and then download something and it gets installed. So I have to keep watching the apps in my phone, whether what I have in my phone is all what I really want to.
So one follow-up question. This protection software themselves, there were some reports that the malware software itself had malware in that. Malware protection software. Yes. Okay. So how do we protect ourselves? Which one? How do we go about choosing it? There's a question from Neelam.
Yeah. The choice, actually, yes, this is where I was saying, we evolve, the protection evolves, security evolves, our devices are evolving. But same is true about the attacker. Attackers do evolve and they also keep updating their stuff. And that is also the latest technology evolves over there. Actually, some of the very best minds in the industry, they are in the wrong seat. I would say there are some attackers who may have done very well if they were really writing code to protect. But you can say that that's a different discussion. But thing is that yes, the malwares also may have that thing. That is again depends on that, because every software is susceptible. Even if I'm writing an antivirus or anti-malware software, manual errors are possible over there as well. What I mentioned earlier about the data breach versus data leak and the vulnerability versus exploit here also makes sense over there. With that, I'll just highlight on this thing, vulnerability versus exploit, because that needs awareness, at least maybe
there are a couple of questions which we'll take it up after the technical session later. Yes. Neelam and Pradeep, yes. Okay. Because the second part will set a tone for your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Vulnerability in a particular product is a susceptibility. It is a hole, that is something that it is applicable, that can be misused. But that itself doesn't mean that your product is not secure. Now, of course, it depends on how you call whether it is secure or not. But let's say you are having vulnerability. Someone informs that there is a vulnerability. You are using net banking. You have been using it for a month. And today I get to know that there is a vulnerability, something that this particular software that this net banking uses is susceptible to, because that is a version. That doesn't necessarily mean that your data was already compromised and someone has got that. Yes, it could have been. Vulnerability is the susceptibility. Exploit is the actual solution, that is where it is misused. You have your car, you accidentally forgot the keys over there. This was the same thing as data breach versus data leak. In case of a data breach, someone steals your key. In the second case, you left the key accidentally, but you are welcoming intruder, but somehow your car is still safe, and before someone comes in, you go and get it back. Vulnerability is like the key is over there and no one has actually taken advantage of that thing, or no one has noticed it yet, or whatever. Exploit is when it actually turns out into a problem where someone really makes use of that. So if something that you are using is vulnerable, address that thing as early as possible, probably upgrade and get that thing addressed. But if there is an exploit, you have to take additional actions. You have to immediately shut down anything, any future attacks over there by closing the door first. You take care of that thing. At the same time, you also check if you have already been exploited. If something has already, the presence of the vulnerability in the past has caused any issue. So this is how I would say the approach. This may not really make sense to the common man or using your mobile stuff, but this is far more important for anyone who's managing networks, who is an administrator, as well as this is something important for future developers or programmers. And the number of devices, I already mentioned this, it has been going up. It is very rapid phase, because the number of, if you just compare the number of mobile devices over last few years, you will realize that thing, it is nothing that we are going to compare against our percentage of GDP growth or anything of that sort. This is very humongous. So just because there are so many devices, the attack surface has increased. And just because there are more connected devices, and it is not only your mobile phone, there are lots of devices at your home, as I said, which are connected over Bluetooth. One of the typical errors I do see with people, they just keep their Bluetooth on, or even their, I see many people leaving their routers on. Of course, they are having all devices connected all the time, and most of the times the devices are in use. But I don't really see the need for home router to be on 24/7. But this is something, just a tip. I would say that what we are seeing, the number of more devices connected, and they are for different purposes. Therefore, even if any one of them is susceptible, if it is having an outdated software, and therefore it has got a vulnerability, and there is exploit for that vulnerability, that gets compromised. Someone manages to get into that particular device. Since the other devices at your home are interconnected and they are connected to that, you may have a firewall, no one can get into your home, but there is something called insider attack. So your own device itself compromised, so it has turned out to be an attacker. So in that case, it is easy for one of your internal device to attack or to really misuse or exploit another co-located another device in your network. So you have to be very careful about doing this thing. So this is the most important stuff. I'd say this is not just for mobile devices or computers or networks. This is generally for everyone. Before that, I would say just a few things about self-defending networks, but this is a catchphrase. I would say this is something that is evolving. When we say something is self-defending, the networks are up to date, they've got the latest security patches or whatever. They may have the intelligence also to periodically check and auto upgrade themselves or whatever with the latest patches. But nowadays, with the advent of AI and whatever the evolution of artificial intelligence, now the networks are becoming more intelligent. They are also watching out for patterns. I am seeing my own traffic, whatever is coming in. I identify something that looks like a risky stuff. It is not, it is something abnormal. They try to learn from that thing, and using machine learning, we are identifying such signatures, and they are being published as well, published to the cloud, so that your peers, other people who are also susceptible, can also get to know about that. So the networks are becoming intelligent. They are trying to defend themselves. It is not necessary for a human to go over and update that thing. But this is not fully there. We are not there yet. But this is something that is gradually evolving. So still there is something that we certainly need to take care of manually, things that we will have to ensure. This is the primary point. Before we get into something more technical, we will end the first phase by highlighting these things. These are things that we will have to do irrespective of the type of the device that you got. I am not advocating for any specific type of protection, which malware, which software or whatever. That's not the purpose here. You'll have to ensure that your operating system and your security packages, whether you are talking about your handheld devices or it is about your laptop, or you talk about the next level, your network, the devices in your network that you are managing, routers, high-end devices, so on, everything. You'll have to ensure that the security packages are all up to date, and it just keeps updated automatically or whatever. It should be up to date. That's the first thing everyone needs to take care of. The second one is primarily for the mobile users and maybe the email stuff, because phishing is one of the very well-known or trending stuff, where someone sends you a link. It looks like a different link. That is, you read that thing, it just looks like a very valid link. It is a pretty normal stuff. But the underlying link, for example, if you hover your mouse over that thing, you see what exactly is the underlying link. It is actually pointing to something else. So when you are having messages, emails, anything of that sort, where there are links that are embedded, which are part of the content, there are improvements in the software also. Now there is email security, where we also look for embedded links. We block embedded links or block attachments of particular type. I won't attach, I won't let exe to be part of a mail attachment. Or we also check if there are embedded links, it is okay. But if the embedded link and the displayed link are different, then block that mail, and so on. There are things that whatever the machine could do, we are doing over there. But still, it means If something passes through that and something it is not there over there, and the user clicks on that thing without knowing the repercussions, that is going to be very risky. So you always have to apply your mind, keep watching for these things. It's not necessary that every one of the mail and every one of the link mentioned in the email or message, anything of that sort is risky, but it is a very big area. That's a loophole. That's where we see lots of things being compromised and individual devices being compromised, etc. So that is something to avoid. And third part is about phishing and this attacker. Of course, there are some organizations or some places where they are teaching this art. Of course, they call it as an art, teaching this stuff as a course itself, how to really steal, how to cheat people. Of course, it used to be cheating in a different manner, now cheating in the electronic form, how to do that and so on. People are even teaching that thing formally. But one thing that is very common, at least till date, this is true. If you are seeing an email that it may not be very obvious, it appears, it looks exactly the same. It may not be an email. Even yesterday, I received a message saying that my bank account, in fact, it is a SBI account will be blocked within today or something like that. You will have to update your KYC. Of course, I don't even have an account with SBI. It is just something that they are sending. And when I try, I got an embedded link. Of course, out of interest, I go ahead and check that thing, open that thing from my computer or where I got all the stuff in, all protection in place. And even after that, I know from the Windows events or whatever, I know what else it is attempting to do in the background. Just out of interest, I go and check that. It opens a page which just looks like the regular net banking page. It is the same thing that looks like, but I see some logos are slightly shifted. There could be typos. This is a very simple thing that at least till date it is true. Many such messages are done by people who are not experts. They are not well versed. So you tend to see grammatical errors. There could be typos or some generic address. It may not have your name, dear Mr. XX, or it may not even have something. It will be a generic address without even addressing you by your name. Of course, even if you have got a message like that thing which has got your name, that is also possibly an attack. If someone got hold of your number as well as your name, they might send something like this thing with your addressing you by name and giving you a message that immediately puts you, that shocks you, and you try to take an action immediately. And just because of the gravity of the situation at that moment, how you feel at that moment, you tend to click on that thing and you take the wrong action at that time. So these are things that need to be aware of. The same thing is actually happening even for a big organization. Why is it going to happen for organizations? There is an administrator who has got access to the internal network. They have the full rights in the organization. They are able to really manage the security of the device. If I am able to somehow get hold of the personal email of that person, not necessarily personal, somehow email message this particular person and force that person to click on a wrong link, because all humans are susceptible and it is exactly just based on the time, whatever. Even if 1 in a million, 1 in a trillion, whatever is successful, that's a big yield for them. So once the moment the administrator clicks something like that thing in his or her laptop and they somehow install a malware on their system, they get a free pass, they get an opening into that, into the network, which was very secure, was strong. Everything is built and it is all proper. But just one of the devices within the network is now compromised. That happened just because of manual oversight, just the oversight of one person. So it is not necessary that phishing attacks are for individuals alone and just for petty reasons, just getting hold of your information alone. But it is, the intention could be far beyond just compromising your device, which can really as a turn out as a stepping point for them to escalate that thing to further level. So you have to be wary about such things. Look for messages, look for typos or any errors or glaring errors over there, or messages which are very generic, which don't address you directly, sort of stuff. Don't provide permissions unless you know what exactly it is doing, what is the purpose, and what permissions are provided, and so on. And you install. One of the typical errors I do see people commit. I want to, let's say I want to download Acrobat Reader. This is a very basic software and it is, everyone is using that. It is all stable, well, reliable, good and enough. But I can go to the particular organization. I can download, go to that downloads page. I can download from that place. But what people typically do, someone opens a Google or any search engine, look for the downloader, and there are hundreds of links that are provided. Apart from the original manufacturer or from where that software is coming from. We download from any one of the links. What appears to be a download, the software that you intended to download, by just getting into something. So if someone compromises, that is coming both in form of ads. There are software, if you search anything in Google, at the top what you will see is something that will match the search stuff, but it is all something that someone has paid for, so that is highlighted at the top. So something that is highlighted intentionally, and something that could have been, if the search engine itself is compromised, someone can make their page or their link show up at the top. So this is how the cascading effect works. Someone, one person getting compromised, that thing is being misused, and someone to really mislead people and compromise others. So download from proper sources. Don't just do something like a search engine or something like that, or just even in, if you are doing that thing, validate the link, confirm that it is a proper one and a reliable one. And don't provide permissions to any application, any individual or anyone, unless it is necessary. And if you have to provide permissions, ensure that it is at the proper level. If I need to provide, if there are 5 levels of permission, the 5th one is the topmost one, which provides someone full rights, and one is the least one. When someone needs just permission level 2, give them just the permission level 2. Don't even provide them 3, 4 or anything of that sort, which might mean something can be misused. So ensuring that your systems are up to date, ensuring that what you are doing, your activities, your manual activities are all proper, and we don't introduce a risk over there, and using proper credentials. These are all very important. And ensuring the packages is something that you have, but we do see frequently something like this thing is being done. For instance, the antivirus is being turned off. This aligns with the question that we had earlier about malware itself having a malware. There were, because antivirus is again the old term, what we had, this is the endpoint security just on your laptop or your end device. The thing, there are few attacks which manage to get hold of the AV itself and manage to stop the AV. That is, if the antivirus or the malware program is running, and after that they attempt their attack operation, that would have been caught and immediately escalated, and it would have been blocked immediately. But what they do, they are intelligent. They don't try their stealing part first. They try to get to the AV, identify what antivirus is present, and see if that can be exploited. Look for vulnerabilities within the AV itself. See if there are exploits for that. If there are vulnerabilities within the AV that are exploitable, try to crack that first. So you first attack the security person, they disable that person, then you gain access into the premises. I am not going to jump into the premises immediately, but look at the security first. So something like this thing. There are situations where it has been noticed that antivirus does exist. It is the latest one. It is up to date, but somehow it gets turned off. Somehow in the sense, some situations we know that it was done manually when someone tries to install something. A few months back, there was one person whose some device was compromised. We learned that. And the device, what we learned was that he was trying to download something from black web or something. So they are some movie stuff. So in order to avoid, or in order to bypass that thing, because his antivirus was blocking them from even getting to that page, they turned off the security. And he actually downloaded that, and something happened. I'm not sure, nothing at that time, but they forgot to turn it on. This is a very simple example, I would say. This doesn't mean that it keeps happening day in and day out, but something like this thing, you need to ensure you are up to date. And at the same time, don't take actions like fiddling around with security just for something that is short, or even if you have to do it for any specific reason that is justified, do it and ensure that it is turned off. And bypassing security is one of the red flags, which we see pretty frequently, because this is one very frequent manual error that needs to be taken care of, irrespective of whether you are talking about a handheld device, network device, your laptop or anything of that sort. And third pattern, I would say, is people use passwords. It is all good, strong enough. They have got a very complicated password, but people we have seen use the same password across. Of course, it is hard for them to remember. There are hundreds of devices, different things that I'm logging in. Let's say I've got 4 bank accounts with 4 different banks, and I set my net banking password. It is hard for me to remember which is the password of bank A or which is password of bank B. What I tend to do, I will set the password, some strong password for all 4 banks right now, use it. Maybe after 3 months or something, I change them. I change them in the sense I change all 4 of them to something new. This is good in the sense I don't have to remember so many things. But the problem is, if one of the banks gets compromised, it is no one knows that the same password is what you are using for the other bank also, but the attackers are intelligent. One of the things they try, this is the advantage that they have because of the hardware becoming cheap and things becoming faster now. They try to see person X has got a password for bank A. This is the password. Let me try to crack his account for bank B also using the same password. This turns out to be true many cases in the sense, even if it is 10% of people who do something like this use the same password across different things or for different purposes, it is possible that one of them getting compromised and someone trying to use, that is just in a shot in the dark, but someone trying to use that thing and check if the same password works somewhere else means that something else of yours is also getting exposed, so you're getting compromised. So these are things to take care of. What you can do, periodically change your password, ensure that there is something unique. Maybe you can have your own algorithm, how exactly you are going to distinguish between different ones. You make a subtle change over there, but you remember something which is common. So if I remember my bank A's password, I can immediately guess my bank B's password because it has got B instead of A somewhere or something like that. But it is not same as far as the attacker is concerned. The last point is certainly not for individuals right now, but it is for all organizations, anyone managing network and network security. In the past, you would have logged in to net banking, you log in, you just provide your account number or whatever your ID and password and you log in. Now, most of the banks will send a OTP after that. And after that thing, only if you enter the OTP properly, you are allowed to log in. Same thing happens for different operations. You have to again get a OTP for transferring something or some other financial operation. Different things have got different security levels. Third thing, they will have a CAPTCHA. This is for mitigating DOS attacks. Let me talk about DOS attacks later, but now it is just ensuring that it is human. When I am trying to net banking, I get to the screen, I try to do some particular operation, validating that it is a human who is doing that thing, because automated programs, the screen might be different. It might say that here, look for all the bikes, all cars in this, click all the boxes where cars are displayed. So that keeps varying. So in automated stuff, at least the software hasn't grown, or these low-level attackers don't have such intelligent software which will replicate a human, look at the screen, identify where the cars are there or something. They will have to correlate the text, understand the text, and then understand the images and identify that. No such thing is there. It hasn't evolved to that level. So CAPTCHA is one way of protecting. This is authenticating the user, not only based on the ID and password, but also based on other factors like OTP, is called multi-factor authentication. When you are having, the more valuable your operation is, or whatever your thing that you want to secure, having more stronger MFAs will help. This is necessary, and it is almost, you will see everywhere today in whatever tools that you are using, typically banking stuff. But MFA is something that you will have to enable. This is something that may be optionally turned on. If I am talking to an administrator, they may have a network, they may have configured something, but they may not have configured MFA, though the device supports that and it is possible, but they may not have done it. So such things, these are user errors, typical stuff that we see. So use multi-factor authentication wherever possible, where it is feasible. So with this, I come to the end of the first part. We can have a discussion and we can just get into something more technical. Of course, the words are now commonplace. Even everyone, common man, will know about this thing. But that's where something related to the firewall technologies and the evolution will start. Do you? Okay. Dhananjay? I see you're still on mute.
Venkat, I think you can continue because
Okay.
we are a little short of time. So please just continue,
Sure,
and then we will take all the questions at the end.
Sure. No, that's fine. Yeah. So I'll make it a bit fast here. Okay, considering the time stuff. Of course, this, or you will see, this is, you don't need to be a very technical guy right now to know about some of these words, because this is a commonplace one now and mostly used in media. Of course, some of these terms are used interchangeably or maybe wrongly used to represent something else. But this is just for information, what what exactly different types of attacks, I would say, how the attackers think. Phishing is where you have something a wrong link or something that is misleading that has been sent to you. This is exactly the example that I cited earlier, where someone sent me a message that your State Bank login is going to be disabled tonight because your KYC is not completed, and click on this particular link to finish your KYC immediately. But that link is actually nothing to do with KYC. It might happen, it might behave in two ways. One is clicking on that link might mean it immediately downloads some attacking software, or it takes me to a second page, which looks exactly like the bank that I'm trying to access, but it is not the bank's page. And it asks me for the user ID, password, etc. And unknowingly thinking that it is the same bank stuff, I provide all those things. It is like attack that used to happen that was there in media quite some time back regarding ATMs, where someone placed a sensor. I'm talking about a physical sensor under the keypad of an ATM. Someone get into a teller machine and posing as a regular customer. And just when the security guy was not noticing, they somehow placed a attachment below that thing, and they just placed the additional device over there and a camera also to read the pin or something like that. That is focused on the keypad so that they can see from that what keys the person is pressing on the keypad. By doing this thing, one of them was actually the first device was to read the barcode of the device of the ATM card. The other one, the camera stuff, was to identify the pin number that these people entered. The next day, this person comes back and takes his devices back, and they just read all that thing, correlate the time, and identify which ATM card had which password, and the pin number, they correlate all that thing. This is something that they sell because they may not have the infrastructure to build upon that, to misuse that thing. They sell it to someone else who really builds on that. They create another card which has got the magnetic strip which matches the same number. They get to the bank, they have got the password as well. They connect to that. The machine thinks that it is the same person and they can withdraw. This is just that is a physical stuff that used to happen. In email or in technological and electronic terms, you say phishing is where you are getting a link or something like that. You are made to think that it is something, but it is actually doing something else. And phishing emails are far more easily recognizable, at least till now, because of the spelling mistake or glaring errors, or not addressing the people properly, and so on. Malware is the umbrella term. Actually, it is right now used for whatever we used to have antivirus or anything, all virus, Trojan, etc. All those things is now called under the term malware. There are different types over there. Of course, Trojan is something that gets installed on your system as something else, but internally it does something else. Spyware, it doesn't do anything except read your keystrokes or something like that and just uploads it to someone. So you click on something like this thing, somehow the spyware gets installed. It just monitors your action. So whatever you do in your computer is known to someone else. Maybe belatedly, it might be sending it, uploading that thing, but someone is spying on you. So it is called as a spyware. Third one is something where your hard disk itself is encrypted using a different password so that you yourself are not able to access your device completely. Your system locks up. Once this gets installed, and most of these things come through illegal links, especially things that pose as something else, either through advertisements or on sites which people don't normally visit, but it is made to entice people so that they get over there. For example, something promising for some economic returns or something like that, people tend to click on that thing immediately, and once they click on that, one of these things get installed. The ransomware will completely block your system, and someone will send you a mail or something, somehow reach you asking for a claim, that is claiming for some payment. You have to send it to this particular account or give me bitcoins. These are so widely prevalent right now, and they are well connected network. So someone may not even ask you for rupees, they might ask you for dollars. So ransomware is where your critical stuff is blocked from yourself, and they will unlock it for you. They will give you a key to unlock, or what is the process to unlock, once you pay them out, and that's where it is settled. But the number of ransomware attacks is also increasing. Mostly you may not see ransomware for individuals, not as much as big organizations, but this is something that is there. Password attack and brute force attacks are something that are used to guess the password, your credential, and ensure that they are misused. The password attack is done either by attacking your system that is trying multiple passwords over there. This is why you will see banks saying that you attempted to access your account using wrong password 5 times and your account is locked. The reason such limitations have been placed is to really distinguish between a person who knows the password, who has just failed, who forgot the thing and typed wrongly for the first 2 times or something, and an attacker. Even if you are a valid user, but you forgot the password and you tried the password 5 times, you have to get to the bank or use a different process to unlock your system. Those are precautions put in place over there to ensure that your passwords, if they are compromised, they are not, or they are not yet compromised, they don't get compromised just because someone is trying this thing. If the system allows the login attempts, irrespective of the number of failures, someone will try every possible keystroke combination because of the hardware being easy, and eventually crack your password. It is password attack not only on your system, your net banking, your computer, etc. There are software people who attack Wi-Fi networks. You have got your Wi-Fi router. It is visible just around your building. You connect, you know the password, only your devices attempt to connect. But the signal is available around your building to some distance. There are software which on a different handheld device, which can see your Wi-Fi router, the signal. It tries to read that, but using the technology, it can just try a few times and it can crack your Wi-Fi password. Again, Wi-Fi password cracking, someone is going to just use some of my bandwidth. How cost it is going to be? It is like the same impersonation stuff, whatever we discussed. If someone gets a new mobile number using your identifier, your IDs, and uses that mobile number for terrorist activities, and later you are being blamed for that thing. You can think about that. This thing came from this particular IP address, and this IP address belongs to this particular account. It came from this Wi-Fi, and this was in this particular building. If someone used this thing, your Wi-Fi, to do something nefarious, and you are applicable, that is, you are being accounted for that. So when I say password attack, it is not just your logins or whatever you manually use. Even stuff that you don't manually use are also susceptible to for password attacks. So we have to be very careful about that. So this is where one thing that was not listed in the previous screen, I'd say here, even your Wi-Fi password, periodically change that. Periodically, it may not be as frequent as your net banking password, but don't keep it the same forever. Something you try to change so that in case somehow your data was compromised, you just undo that particular stuff. The next few things, primarily, of course, phishing and password attack have got some ramifications both for the common man as well as organizations. But insider threats and DDoS, DOS sort of attacks are more prevalent for organizations. Firewall, when we talk about the initial stuff, the firewall technology, that evolved as a border security. When I say border security, it is like your office building, and there is a security person standing outside, and anyone coming in has to pass that security person. So only valid employees or whoever has got permission to enter that particular building can really pass that gate. Firewall is something like that. Firewall used to be at the border, and it will have the data on who all can enter or who can be permitted. So it is actually deny by default. And unless there is evidence that this person can be permitted or should be allowed, it won't allow. That's the default firewall behavior. But firewalls have got a limitation. Those things, just the border security. When I say just the border security, it has got the limitation that it will work as long as the attacker is a different person. If there is a disgruntled employee, let's say that is called as an insider threat. There is an attacker also somehow resides in your organization. It may not be, the numbers may not be very high or whatever, but this business wise or the compromise, the value wise, insider threats are very valuable or something that have been causing huge losses for organizations. So insider threats is a case where someone who is inside your organization who has got access to something, they just try to capitalize on that thing, and they try to gain access and eventually compromise your network. So these things, how to really mitigate that. I cannot go ahead and check each and every employee every day to see what all activities they are doing, but you should have very granular permissions. Let's say there is one person who is in a particular department. There is, you can say my organization is divided into accounts, payroll, and other departments over there. There is a data that is financial information that the accounts or the payroll division alone is actually supposed to work on, and that is relevant to them. I don't need to provide access for that particular data for each and every employee in my organization. So you should have very granular permission. There should be limited access to resources. It should be role-based access. So role-based access control is what will at least avoid the chances of insider attacks. Still, if there is a person within the same department who has got access and who wants to attack, it is possible. But you should be able to track that. Some of the things that were in the backup stuff, but I'm not going to proudly cover that thing. That was regarding some of the main aspects of security, which is about accounting. It's not just about blocking or avoiding the attack sort of stuff, but also monitoring the data, what all things have happened in your setup in the past, and see if there are any outliers. If there are any odd things that you notice over there, why this particular person, this login is happening at this particular time, which doesn't align with the other regular behavior, something like that. These are proactive stuff that people do, or even there are software that do this thing to even mitigate insider threats. Denial of service and distributed denial of service, these DOS and DDoS are ways to bring down your network. Because if you remember the initial stuff that I shared, one of the aspects of cybersecurity is not only compromising the data, it is also breaking your service. There is a critical service. To ensure that your service availability is not impacted, that is also important. That is also part of cybersecurity. So denial of service is one by which, or DOS as well as DDoS is a scenario in which someone breaks your service. It is not your service is broken and some information is stolen or something. You got, let's say yours is a bank, you are supporting net banking. You can support up to 1,000 customers logged in at the same time. And you don't expect that that is a reasonable number that you expect, and you have got infrastructure servers for handling all that thing. And now if someone, an attacker, they try to just to get hold of 1,000 different IDs, just IDs, not the password, or they generate some random IDs which align with the IDs of your organization, and they just try to log in as that particular user. Of course, it will fail, but they automate this thing. It will just keep attempting to log in as those 1,000 users, or even it can increase that thing to 2,000 users. So your limit is 1,000 to log in, and it keeps failing. It means your infrastructure is under stress. It is spending lots of resources in handling this invalid attempts. That is not intentional. It is not proper users. They are not really manual users who are doing that. But this means that other valid users cannot log in at that time. So there is a denial of service in your setup. So your valid users cannot really make use of your service. This is just an example. So these were a trend a few years back, but this is where most of the things, like you have a CAPTCHA, or after you failed login attempts few times, it says that for today it is blocked. You can log in, try login tomorrow, or something like that. Placing limitations on specific activities which doesn't look normal is something the way that the servers take to ensure that no one can really use this thing. There will be no denial of service. But even here, the vulnerabilities is something that is common for everyone. If you have got an outdated version, for instance, I know people have got phones which don't support the latest Android version. So your Android OS is old, and it is not even though the latest Android is there, it won't get updated. But there is a vulnerability in the previous version, and that means you are susceptible to that particular vulnerability, though your security patch is up to date. Whatever, because it is in the OS. So these are some things, a type of attacks that takes care of vulnerabilities. Just someone connects to your phone. Connects in the sense they won't have full rights or something. They just very basic stuff. They try to connect to your phone. Check your Android OS. If your OS is older than this particular stuff, then try the vulnerability. Try to attack using that vulnerability. There's something like that thing. So that is one of them. Man in the middle is more important for organizations where the server and client. Someone, I am logging into my net banking. I am the client. That is my laptop. The server is the banking server, net banking server of the organization. Posing someone in between who can read the traffic which goes back and forth. If the data is sent in clear text, my ID, password, everything, it is like someone, there is a water from source to stuff, the pipe is there, someone in between just to see whatever is going back and forth. They are able to see everything. Most of these things may not happen with encryption. Nowadays, everything is strongly encrypted. But even the encryption algorithms have got loopholes, and every version gets a new vulnerability and some new issues are identified, and that will get upgraded. The next version, something that gets fixed, but the fix itself introduces a new problem, something that can happen. So man in the middle is where some person interferes with your traffic and just manages to get hold of some information that you don't want them to know about. That is one thing. SQL injection is specifically about databases where someone can enter something which looks like a valid command for the database, but it actually compromises the data and so on. But this will not be relevant for a common man, but all those things primarily using the IDS or appropriate security mechanism as well as the posture will be the way to address that. This is cryptojacking is one thing that is becoming famous. You may hear that thing anywhere in the common the new media also. This is where someone hijacks your passwords of your cryptocurrency. You know that cryptocurrency is strongly guarded, and unless you remember the key, you yourself will not be able to access your cryptocurrency, whatever. So cryptojacking is where they use the same mechanisms that we spoke about earlier, but somehow get hold of your currencies, keyword, whatever, passwords or something like that. And zero-day exploit is something where some attack that exists on the software already. Till today, no one was aware of that, but today it just got exposed. The log4j vulnerability that I mentioned earlier is something like this thing. So this is one type of attack. This can actually fall into any of the previous categories, but this is one scenario. Watering hole comes from the way animals do that. You see animals that try to attack others. For example, a lion would be waiting around a place where water is there when there is water scarce during the clean season. So it knows that zebras and any other animals, because they will really approach that particular place pretty frequently. They will frequent that place for the purpose of water. So watering hole attacks is like compromising sites or places which are very frequently used and just try to compromise that particular page and make use of that thing, so that their returns will be manyfold, multifold actually, if they are really, if they manage to crack one such place. So such attacks are called watering hole attacks. I am not getting into the solutions. Whatever I have mentioned over here are the different ways typically used to address such things. Not getting into the specifics of availability, confidentiality, etc., which is far more theoretical. But the way security evolved, the diagrams will really give you a clear picture here. You see what is there on the left hand side is how the security was there originally. Someone from outside is just trying to get into your network. There is a firewall which is your entry point. So any traffic that is coming into the network is inspected and only valid stuff is permitted. So anything which is, and the same thing happens on the other side also. If someone is trying to access a particular site which is known as a malicious site, or the site itself is blacklisted earlier for being an attack or something like that, or a compromised site, even the outgoing traffic will be blocked. Such things are taken care of by the firewall. But firewall was originally improvised as a border, a security at the border. And the network perimeter, if you see, there are two networks here, and there is a firewall on the left hand side for this network, and there is a network firewall for the other one. If someone is attempting to connect from one to another one, the firewall needs to be explicitly configured to permit that particular traffic, otherwise it will be blocked. So the default mantra of security is that don't believe something by default, don't believe, and believe only when you know what exactly it is doing. IPS is the next generation, which is not just at the border, because the firewall will not take care of an attacker. If you consider these two computers, one of them is the attacker and the other one is the one being attacked. They are both within the same network. So the firewall is not going to play any role. It will not be of any help over here in blocking the attacker from accessing the peer site. So we have got IPS and devices which can exist both inside the network also, where it looks for specific type of patterns, what type of operations are being done. It looks at the signature. That is, instead of just looking at a particular packet, which in silo may not indicate attack, it looks at a stream of packets. It looks at the pattern and sees that this particular sequence of events seem to indicate a particular attack. This is something that is risky. So I will block this thing. But sometimes it doesn't immediately send all of them, because it occasionally buffers them, collects them, periodically collects them, and tries to build a semantics, understand that thing. Based on the understanding, it decides whether to forward or not. So IPS devices are taking care of that. So this is the main point where we stand today. What we have is a next generation firewall. This is actually a combination of those two solutions, things that take care of both the border security as well as the inside security. The diagram may not be very legible. What you see left hand side is outside, that is the cloud. What you see left bottom is the intelligence. You see cloud-based firewall intelligence. So this is what is built, which is dynamically evolving over time based on whatever attacks are being learned dynamically in the real world. And this is your device. The device is getting the data from network. All those things are coming over here. it periodically understands, it periodically downloads the signature or the latest, the awareness of the latest attacks. That list it gets from the cloud. So it knows that this is the recent set of attacks and how exactly I can identify those attacks. These are the patterns, the signature that I need to look for. And this is the policy how a user can manually configure which things to permit and what to not permit, or what things to enable. For example, MFA and so on, what things to enable, so on, or sort of stuff, you can do this thing. So together, this particular device is a consolidation of different technologies, and it takes care of, it monitors the traffic which is coming in. It learns stuff dynamically from other resources. Whatever anyone else has undergone, there is an attack somewhere else, that immediately reflects in the security intelligence in the cloud. That immediately percolates, or eventually, maybe if it is once a day or something, it comes over here. So tomorrow, this device is capable of blocking that type of attack. And anything that is valid and only that is permitted, only those things will go into the user. You see, these are valid apps, and something that is acceptable and which may not be, it is a valid, but it is not attack stuff, but only some users can do this thing. So it might filter this based on the user also. And it will also categorize something which is actually an attack, which is not accepted, and it will block. And there is a next level, which will monitor the issues like this thing, what all has been blocked, and also identify why it has been blocked and see if any actions need to be taken over there. So these are the highlights. There are multiple things that the NGFW or this sort of the latest technology provides. But if we have to talk about traffic shaping and web content filter and all those things, that itself will be a separate subject. But this will be at a high level, how the security has evolved from just the security at the border, then went into security inside with a different perspective, and now evolved into a combination of those things. There are numerous other security stuff which is specifically for ESA, for email security and web security and so on, as well as with the cloud happening now. There is a different thing called cloud security, how your devices in cloud themselves will be secured, because some of the attacks that apply to your local network won't apply there, and reverse is also true. There are cloud specific attacks which you won't see in your local network. So cloud security has to be handled in a different manner. This is where I'll stop. We'll just go ahead with the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you very much, Venkat. So a few questions that have come in the Q&A box. If all this setup, whatever you've spoken about, was installed in AIIMS, but despite that, they had a malware attack and the whole network was down for nearly 2 weeks before they could recover.
Right.
So what strategy could they have adopted to prevent? If I'm a small and medium business running a healthcare or any services business, so what else can I do apart from putting firewall, UTM and other things?
Just the presence of firewall will just not be sufficient to take care of everything, because it is a machine. It just does what it has been told, and it has got information on which is a safe traffic and which can be permitted. Of course, by default, it doesn't permit traffic which is not known as security labs. So if the firewall is not configured properly, or if it is misconfigured, intentionally misconfigured, let's say someone did this thing from this particular IP alone, permit any traffic. I don't have to worry about whether it is this particular protocol or anything of that sort. Maybe it was done as an attack, or it was done intentionally, but without keeping the repercussions in mind, where that particular device got compromised. This amounts to whatever I mentioned earlier.
As an owner of a business, that's the question came from owner of a business. As an owner, what should he do?
Yeah, he needs to evolve everything. That is, I did mention in different slides. One is that you have got an infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure in place, latest technologies. That is just not sufficient. Have that. That's right. Second thing is you have to take care of the different types of attacks. I spoke about insider attacks, especially for this sort of audience, because it's not enough if you just secure your borders and ensure that only proper people come in. There are chances of insider attack. This is where AAA refers to audit, authentication, and authorization. So where you provide the proper permissions for the proper people, so that no one, even your insiders, your well reliable person, doesn't have any permissions beyond what exactly he or she requires. So just be clear about that thing. Have the basic infrastructure, proper infrastructure, keep it up to date. Of course, this is not that the person is going to take care of by himself, but his administrators need to do that. They will have to ensure that it is up to date. Third thing is they will have to monitor. It is not true that if you have got the latest signatures and everything is all up to date, you are not going to be attacked at all. There will be lots of attacks. Many of them will be filtered out. Even if I say 99.99% is filtered out and it is identified and restricted as an attack, even that 0.01%, either because it is a 0-day attack. I mentioned about 0-day attack earlier. This is completely new attack which no one knows about that yet. So even your devices don't know that. So they don't have the signatures. So 0-day attack, this is a person, unluckily is the first person to encounter that and got impacted. Not necessarily the first person. Before the solution is learned and others people are learning, there is a set of people who might get impacted. So such attacks can still happen. And even if you have got everything in place, your signature is all proper, you have to take care of, you have to be wary about insider threats. How exactly you are taking care of those things. Of course, insider threat, the suggestion is always to ensure that you keep your permissions proper and you keep everything restricted just to give what permission is required just up to that thing. And third thing is you have to educate. Educate why? Because as I explained, if the laptop of one of your employees is compromised and the person is working from home and they are connecting to your network, there it is not, they haven't done anything intentionally for your network or your devices, but it is just that their devices got compromised because they did something. It could be phishing attack. How they compromised, it can be because of any reason, but that actually will manifest. Since they have got the key to get into your network, they can get it. So you will have to educate your people, ensure that they are well aware of this thing and they take care of security, not just your when in your office and your network only, even their network devices, other things that they are using to connect to. So everyone, unless everyone has got this mentality, everyone takes care of this, we cannot be far more comfortable. In any way, I won't say that we are never 100% secure. You might say Six Sigma, whatever, anything of that sort, but 0-day attacks are possible. And even otherwise, if there are lapses in your network or your configuration, etc., that can happen. This is always going to be evolving.
Okay, I think I have two more questions, but we are run out of time, so I'll hand it over to Sushila to summarize.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Dhananjay. So we started today with by looking at some pretty scary numbers about cybercrime. In fact, the numbers are larger than the GDP of many countries. So that's how big this whole thing is. And the criminals, again, as Venkat was telling us, the criminals seem to be a step ahead of those who are trying to protect us and our data. And therefore, the importance of today's talk. And I must thank Venkatakrishnan Varadachari for taking this up and spending this time with us. Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you.
Tech is now an integral part of our lives, and there is just no way we can, any of us, whichever part of the economy we are in, there is just no way we can imagine a life that does not have tech as a completely integral part of all that we do. And today we heard many, many stories about the kinds of vulnerability that we are exposed to, the kind of issues that we are exposed to, the kind of cyber crimes that occur. And he's also enabled us today to understand the difference between different kinds of susceptibilities that we are exposed to. As there was one interesting fact, which is that post-COVID, there has been a huge spike in the rate of cybercrime. A part of that is attributable to the fact that there are many, many more devices that are connected to the internet. And further, we also have the Internet of Things, and that again means that there are many devices that are connected. And again, it's not just an individual or a computer that can help us, that can cause these vulnerabilities, but also devices. And that I felt was an important point for all of us to appreciate. The war is no longer only on the battlefield. So when we think about Ukraine, it's not just what is happening on the ground, it's also what is happening in the background with all of the technology that is integrated into the equipment and communications and everything else. And as Venkat was telling us, about about all the issues that are involved. Couple of things that stood out for me. One is that devices can remember our activities and can be made to repeat them by an attacker. So again, we need to be careful about that. With the increase in compute power, tools like AI, and the fact that some of the finest minds are actually working for the wrong people, the whole area of cyber threats is evolving constantly. And we seem to be a step behind, always trying to catch up with the criminals rather than being able to protect ourselves in a way that is infallible. And of course, given all of this, your own device can turn traitor on you, so that's pretty scary, actually. Organizational networks being harder to crack, individuals are being targeted more and more. We looked at state-sponsored security attacks. We looked at the fact that distributed teams, which are online 24/7, all of these open up threats to the network. Eventually, the network and we are only as strong as our weakest link. And therefore, it is absolutely worth investing in making sure that we are protected well. And Venkat described at length several steps and tips for us, such as keeping software up to date, passwords, what to look for to recognize an attack, and so on, both for the individual and for the organizational network. So this, I think, was a very important session, and one that we should take cognizance of all that we heard today, and see that we protect ourselves as much as possible. So I want to end by thanking Venkat for this very informative talk, Dhananjay for doing a wonderful job of moderating this discussion, and our audience. Thank you very much for participating, for being here, and for your questions. If you're interested in knowing more, any specific aspect or whatever, please do write into us, and we will take it up. So with this, thank you and good night.
Thank you.